A pencil scratches across lined paper. Jalen sits near the window, tracing the letters NASA in the margin of his notebook. The hum of the radiator is steady, but his heartbeat is louder. Ms. Hawthorne's voice floats over the class, calling for volunteers. Jalen's hand rises, slow but sure. He clears his throat. I want to be a NASA engineer. The room freezes. A chair squeaks. Ms. Hawthorne's pen hovers above her gradebook, her smile tight. That's ambitious, Jalen. Her tone is light, but her eyes linger a moment too long. A boy in the back snickers. Jalen's grip on his pencil tightens, knuckles paling. He doesn't look away. I've always loved space. Ms. Hawthorne laughs, but it's not warm. Maybe start with something closer to Earth? The class laughs with her. Jalen's face stays calm, but his thumb presses hard into the paper, leaving a faint smudge. A girl 2 rows up glances back, curiosity flickering before she looks down. The motivational posters on the wall, reach for the stars, seem to mock him. Ms. Hawthorne's gaze shifts to the window. Let's move on, she says, flipping to the next lesson. Jalen's pencil moves again, slower this time. He writes, NASA engineer, in bold, dark strokes, underlining it twice. The graphite stains his fingertip. The clock ticks, each second stretching out. The bell rings. Students scramble for their backpacks. Jalen stays seated, rewriting his dream in the margin, making it permanent. Ms. Hawthorne gathers her things, her eyes flicking to him, unreadable. He finally stands, sliding his notebook into his bag. As he leaves, the sunlight catches the word NASA one last time. The classroom door closes behind him, but the echo of his words lingers, refusing to be erased. Before the story continues, please let us know from where you are watching this video. Write your city or country in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like if you believe in stories that challenge injustice. Your engagement gives power to voices that need to be heard. Ms. Hawthorne's heels click against the tile as she circles the room, her lesson winding down. She stops by Jalen's desk, her lips pressed into a careful curve. The class is busy copying notes, but a few eyes flicker up, sensing the tension. She leans in, voice low but clear enough for nearby students to hear. NASA, Her tone is light, but the question lands heavy. Jalen doesn't look up. He keeps his pencil moving, tracing the letters again, slower this time. A boy at the next table stifles a laugh. Miss Hawthorne's gaze lingers on Jalen's notebook, her fingers drumming a slow rhythm on the edge of his desk. Dreams are nice, she says, but let's be realistic. Her words are soft, almost kind, but the message is sharp. Jalen's jaw tightens. He closes his notebook, the snap of the cover louder than it should be. I am realistic, he says, his voice steady but quiet. Ms. Hawthorne's smile doesn't falter, but her eyes narrow for a split second. Across the room, a girl with glasses shifts in her seat, glancing from Jalen to the teacher and back. She bites her lip, uncertain. The boy in the back row grins, nudging his friend. The clock on the wall ticks, the sound filling the gap where encouragement should be. Ms. Hawthorne straightens, smoothing her skirt. Let's turn to page 42. Her voice is brisk now, the moment dismissed. Jalen opens his notebook. Again, this time writing in the margin, pressing the pencil so hard the paper nearly tears. The bell rings. Students file out, their chatter rising. Jalen lingers, packing his things slowly. Ms. Hawthorne gathers her stack of papers, her movements quick and precise. She doesn't look back as she leaves, but her grip on the folder is tight, knuckles pale. A boy in the second row leans over his desk, whispering, "Spaceman," just loud enough for a few to hear. The word ripples across the room, picked up by another student who snickers, then another. The laughter isn't loud, but it's sharp, slicing through the quiet. Jalen's cheeks warm, but he keeps his eyes on the front, posture rigid, refusing to shrink. Miss Hawthorne stands near the window, arms folded, gaze drifting over the class. She doesn't intervene, doesn't glance Jalen's way. Her stillness gives permission, a silent nod that tells the others what's fair game. The girl with braids 2 seats over glances at Jalen, then quickly focuses on her worksheet, fingers twisting the corner of the page. The boy who started it grins, emboldened by the lack of response. He taps his pencil on the desk. The rhythm, cocky. Jalen's hand hovers above his notebook, pencil poised. He writes slow and deliberate, pressing each letter as if it matters more now. NASA engineer, underlined twice, the graphite leaving a faint mark on his palm. Ms. Hawthorne clears her throat, breaking the tension. "Let's move on," she says, voice flat. The lesson resumes, but the mood has shifted. Some students exchange glances, a few smirk, others look away. The message is clear. There's a line here, and Jalen's not meant to cross it. Jalen doesn't react. He sits taller, eyes forward, the sting of laughter lingering but not breaking his focus. The bell rings. Backpacks zip. Chairs scrape. The others drift out. Voices already jumping to weekend plans. Jalen packs slowly, the words on his page a silent promise he refuses to erase. Jalen waits until the last backpack disappears through the door. The classroom is nearly empty, just the faint hum of the heater and the shuffle of Ms. Hawthorne's papers at her desk. He opens his notebook, flips to a fresh page, and writes NASA engineer in bold, heavy strokes. Each letter is darker than the last, the tip of his pencil growing blunt. He glances up, catching Ms. Hawthorne's eyes on him. She doesn't say a word. Her gaze lingers for a moment, then drops back to her stack of assignments. She shuffles them, the edges uneven, her hands moving a bit too quickly. Jalen presses his thumb against the graphite, smudging the corner of the page. He doesn't bother to brush it away. The smudge feels like proof of effort, of intent, of something that can't be wiped clean. He underlines the words twice, slow and careful, as if making a contract with himself. A chair squeaks in the back. The janitor pokes his head in, gives Jalen a nod, then disappears down the hall. Jalen closes his notebook, the sound soft but final. He slides it into his bag, fingers lingering on the cover. Ms. Hawthorne stands, gathering her things. She glances at Jalen again, but whatever she's about to say dies on her lips. She tucks a stray paper into her folder, her lips pressed thin. The bell for the next period rings. Jalen remains seated for a moment, staring at his closed notebook. He finally rises, shoulders squared, and walks to the door. As he leaves, he looks back once, catching the sunlight falling across his desk, illuminating the words he left behind. Ms. Hawthorne gathers her belongings, stacking worksheets into a neat pile. Her eyes flick to Jalen, who stands by the window, backpack slung over one shoulder. He doesn't rush. Instead, he watches her reflection in the glass, his face unreadable, posture unbroken. She hesitates, clutching her folder a bit tighter. "You're still here?" Her voice is softer now, almost uncertain. Jalen nods once. No words, just a steady gaze that meets hers in the pain. The air between them is thick, the usual classroom noise replaced by a heavy quiet. A student from the hall pokes his head in, looking for a lost book. Ms. Hawthorne waves him away without turning, her attention fixed on Jalen. He zips his backpack, the sound crisp, then slides his notebook inside. The movement is slow, deliberate, as if he's marking the end of something. She clears her throat, searching for a line of authority that suddenly feels thin. "Have a good afternoon, Jalen." Her tone is flat, lacking the confidence she wore. Earlier, he doesn't answer, just nods, eyes never leaving hers in the reflection. The motivational posters on the wall flutter as the door opens, caught by a draft. Jalen steps out, pausing for a heartbeat in the doorway. Miss Hawthorne watches his back, her jaw set, but her fingers tremble around the folder. He walks down the hall, each step measured. Behind him, the classroom feels smaller, the bright slogans, on the wall, suddenly hollow. Ms. Hawthorne stands alone, the echo of his calm presence lingering long after he's gone. She exhales, a shaky breath she didn't know she was holding. The door swings shut, and the quiet that follows is different, charged, unsettled, and full of something she can't name. A radio plays softly in the background, static crackling between old jazz tunes. Young Jalen kneels on the garage floor, hands sticky with glue as he presses cardboard fins onto a homemade rocket. Grandpa Sam crouches beside him, steadying the tube with weathered fingers. "You know, Katherine Johnson started with nothing but numbers and dreams," he says, voice low and full of pride. Jalen grins, eyes bright. "Will mine fly, Grandpa?" Sam chuckles, wiping a streak of paint from Jalen's cheek. "Maybe not today. But you keep building. You'll get there." He gestures to a faded photo taped above the workbench. Mae Jemison smiles out from the frame, a silent promise that reaching for the stars is more than just a saying. Jalen carefully paints the nose, cone blue, tongue poking from the corner of his mouth in concentration. Sam hums along with the radio, tapping a gentle rhythm on the floor. The garage smells of sawdust and hope. Jalen glances at the photo, then at the rocket, determination settling in his chest. A neighbor's lawnmower sputters to life outside, but inside the garage, time slows. Sam hands Jalen a marker. "Write your name on it. That way, when it soars, everyone knows who dared." Jalen prints his name in bold letters, then adds NASA underneath, the ink bleeding a little into the cardboard. The rocket wobbles as they set it upright, but Jalen steadies it, jaw set. Sam ruffles his hair, pride shining in his eyes. "Every great journey starts with a shaky launch," he says. Jalen nods, eyes fixed on his creation, already dreaming of the sky. As dusk settles, they stand together, rocket in hand, the garage, filled with the quiet certainty that dreams, no matter how fragile, are worth building. The hallway is empty except for the faint squeak of Jalen's sneakers on the linoleum. He slips into the storage room, the door closing with a soft thud behind him. Dust motes swirl in the shaft of light from a single window, stacks of old science. Fair boards lean against the wall, their edges frayed. Jalen kneels, rifling through the pile until he finds his own project last year's rocket. The paint chipped, but the title still bold. Taped to the corner is a grading sheet. B circled in red. He reads the comment aloud, voice barely above a whisper. "Unrealistic scope. Try something more achievable." He flips through the rest. A volcano made from papier-mâché. A solar system mobile, both marked "excellent" in loopy handwriting. He runs his finger over the words, feeling the sting all over again. The red ink is harsh, the message clear. He finds another board, this one belonging to a classmate. The construction is sloppy, the facts half-checked, but the grade is an A with a smiley face. Jalen's jaw tightens. He stacks the projects side by side, the difference impossible to miss. A folder slips from the shelf above, scattering papers across the floor. He gathers them, noticing a pattern. His name, and others who look like him, marked down for ambition, while others are praised for creativity. He tucks the folder under his arm, evidence heavy in his grasp. The light flickers as he stands, casting long shadows on the walls. He glances back at the pile, then at the red marks on his own work. The room feels colder, the air thick with things left unsaid. Jalen leaves, the folder pressed tight to his chest, determined not to let the pattern continue. Jalen moves quietly down the corridor, the afternoon sun slanting through high windows. Near the lockers, he notices a crumpled piece of paper wedged behind a bench. He picks it up, smoothing the wrinkles. The handwriting is shaky but clear. "No room for dreamers here." Harold. He looks up and spots Harold, the janitor, pushing a cart slowly down the hall. His usual easy smile is missing. The mop leans against the wall, bucket half full. Jalen approaches, holding out the note. Harold glances at it, then at Jalen. A tired sadness in his eyes. "Didn't mean for anyone to see that," Harold says, voice rough. He shrugs, looking away. "Some places you just don't fit no matter how hard you work." He pulls off his work gloves, tucking them into his back pocket. The badge on his shirt is gone, only a faint outline left where it used to be. A teacher hurries past, barely nodding. Harold's shoulders sag. He glances at Jalen, managing a small crooked smile. "You keep dreaming, kid. Don't let 'em tell you otherwise." He pats Jalen's shoulder, then pushes his cart toward the exit. Jalen stands still, watching as Harold disappears around the corner. The hallway feels emptier than before. Through the glass doors he sees Harold waiting at the bus stop, head bowed, hands in his pockets. The bus arrives, doors hissing open. Harold boards, without looking back. The vehicle pulls away, taillights fading until they're just 2 red pinpricks in the distance. Jalen folds the note and slips it into his pocket. The words weigh heavy, but he holds them close. A quiet warning and a promise. He turns back toward class, determined to carry his dreams a little further down the hall. The guidance office smells faintly of coffee and old paper. Jalen stands just outside the doorway, listening as Ms. Tran speaks to a senior seated across from her. The girl's hands twist nervously in her lap, her eyes darting to a thin envelope on the desk. Ms. Tran picks it up, glancing at the return address. "MIT, huh?" Ms. Tran says, her tone gentle but final. "It's tough, you know. Not many from here get in." She slides the envelope across the desk. The girl opens it, lips pressed tight, and reads silently. Her shoulders slump. Ms. Tran reaches over, patting her hand. "Community college is a good option. Safer, closer to home." The girl nods, blinking fast. "I just thought—" Ms. Tran cuts her off, voice soft but firm. "You'll thank me later. Trust me." She files the letter away in a drawer, already stuffed with similar envelopes. Jalen glimpses the top one. Denied. A clock ticks on the wall. The girl stands, gathering her bag. Ms. Tran offers a practiced smile. "Let me know if you need help with your application." The girl hesitates, then leaves, head down. Jalen steps back as she passes, their eyes meeting for a split second. She looks away, wiping her cheek with the back of her hand. Ms. Tran closes the drawer with a quiet thud, locking it. She shuffles a stack of college brochures, arranging them in a neat fan. Her face is unreadable. Jalen lingers a moment longer, watching as Ms. Tran turns to her computer, already moving on. The office door closes with a soft click, sealing away another dream. Jalen walks down the hall, the sound of the latch echoing behind him, a reminder of how easily futures are redirected. The PTA. Meeting drags on in the echoing gym, folding chairs lined up in neat rows. Tanya Rivers sits near the front, hands folded tight in her lap. The principal drones about test scores and fundraising. Tanya raises her hand, voice steady but quiet. "Can we talk about advanced placement enrollment? About who gets in and who doesn't?" A few parents glance her way, some nodding, others looking away. The principal offers a polite smile. "We follow the usual process, Mrs. Rivers. It's fair for everyone." He scribbles something in his notepad, eyes never quite meeting hers. Tanya presses on. "My son's grades are high. He's never missed an assignment, but he was told the class was full." Her words hang in the air, met with a few murmurs. The principal clears his throat, moving quickly to the next agenda item. "Let's table that for now." The meeting ends. Parents gather their things, chatting about bake sales and field trips. Tanya lingers, packing her bag slowly. Another mother stops by, squeezing her shoulder in silent support before leaving. The gym empties, the lights dim. Outside, Tanya sits in her car, staring through the windshield. Her hands shake as she wipes away a tear, careful not to smudge her makeup. Jalen slides into the passenger seat, silent at first. He reaches over, squeezing her hand. She manages a small smile. "We'll keep trying," she whispers, her voice thick. Jalen nods, holding her hand a moment longer. She starts the engine, headlights cutting through the darkness as they pull away from the school. The building shrinks in the rearview mirror, its windows blank and unwelcoming. Inside the car, the only sound is the hum of the tires on the road and the quiet promise that they won't stop fighting. The library is nearly empty, just the soft whir of the ceiling fan and the faint click of keys from the front desk. Jalen stands in the non-fiction aisle, scanning the shelves for something that feels like hope. Mrs. Carter, the librarian, wheels a cart past, pausing when she sees him. She glances over her shoulder, then slides a slim book from the bottom shelf. "Hidden Figures," she whispers, holding it out. Her eyes flick to the security camera near the door. "This one's not on the recommended list, but I think you'll like it." Jalen takes the book, tucking it under his hoodie, the weight both thrilling and comforting. Mrs. Carter's hands shake as she reshelves a thick manual on plumbing. She leans closer, voice barely above a breath. "Don't let anyone tell you no. Not here, not anywhere." Jalen nods, clutching the book tighter. Their eyes meet for a moment, hers full of worry and pride, his shining with something fierce. A group of students enters, laughing loudly. Mrs. Carter straightens, her professional smile snapping back into place. She greets them, checking their passes, but her gaze returns to Jalen as he slips away toward the exit. He moves quietly through, the stacks heart-pounding. The cover of the book presses against his ribs, a secret badge. At the door he looks back. Mrs. Carter gives a small, almost imperceptible nod before turning to help another student. Outside, the afternoon sun is bright. Jalen opens the book to the first page, reading the dedication. He smiles, hope blooming in his chest. He tucks it away, stepping off the library steps with a new sense of purpose, the words, "Don't let anyone tell you no," echoing with every stride. Jalen sits at his desk late at night, the glow of his laptop lighting his face. He's found a way into the school's email system, curiosity pushing him past caution. His fingers hover over the touchpad as he scrolls through messages, searching for his name. He finds it. Jalen's NASA talk needs redirecting, one email reads, sent from Ms. Hawthorne to the guidance office. Another, more blunt, "Black students' ambitions require management." The words sting, each line a fresh bruise. Jalen prints the emails, the machine humming, pages curling as they land in the tray. He flips through the stack, recognizing names of classmates who'd been told to be realistic. The pattern is clear, impossible to ignore. Down the hall, his mother's. Footsteps fade as she heads to bed. Jalen's heart pounds, anger and resolve mixing in his chest. He tucks the printouts into a folder, hands shaking. The blue glow of the screen reflects in his glasses, making his eyes look older, harder. For a moment, he just sits, listening. To the quiet of the house, the only sound, the faint hum of the printer cooling down. At school the next day, Ms. Hawthorne laughs with a favored student in the hall, her voice bright and easy. Jalen passes her, folder tucked under his arm. Their eyes meet for a split second. She looks away first, her smile flickering. Jalen keeps walking, the folder pressed tight to his side. He knows what he's found isn't just about him. It's about all the students who were told to shrink their dreams. He heads to class, determined to make sure those words don't disappear into another forgotten file. Jalen sits at the kitchen table long after midnight, the house quiet except for the ticking clock. He stares at a blank sheet of paper, pencil, poised. His mother, Tanya, moves quietly behind him, making cocoa, her footsteps soft against the linoleum. She places the mug by his elbow, offering a tired smile. He starts to write, the pencil scratching out his thoughts. They say space is too far, but racism is farther. He hesitates, erases, writes again. The words come slowly, each sentence, heavier than the last. Tanya leans over, reading the lines, her eyes shining with pride and sorrow. She wipes a tear away, but one falls onto the page, blurring the word NASA into a gray smudge. Jalen looks up, startled. Tanya squeezes his shoulder. "Don't let them bend you," she whispers, voice thick. He nods, jaw set, and keeps writing. He pours everything into the essay memories of science fairs, stories of his grandfather's rockets, the sting of Ms. Hawthorne's words. He writes about dreams, about ceilings that others tried to lower, about the promise he made to himself not to shrink. The pencil grows dull, but he presses harder, making each word count. When he finishes, his hand aches. He reads the essay aloud. Voice steady. Tanya listens, wiping her eyes, then hugs him tight. "This is yours," she says. "Don't let anyone take it from you." Jalen smiles, exhausted but lighter. He tucks the essay into his backpack, the paper still damp where the tear fell. Upstairs, the sky is clear, stars shining through his window. Jalen glances up, hope flickering in his chest, certain that his words will reach farther than any rocket ever could. Mr. Whitfield sits at his desk, the glow of his phone illuminating his thoughtful face. He reads Jalen's essay twice, lips pressed together, then with a decisive breath, taps share. The post goes live. Within minutes, notifications begin to ping. Firefighters, nurses, a retired engineer, all tagging Chakucher to let Jalen fly. The momentum builds, each comment a spark. Jalen lies awake, phone buzzing beside him. He scrolls through the reactions, eyes wide, barely daring to believe. His mother peeks in, sees the screen lighting his face, and smiles softly before closing the door. Down the hall, the house is still, but online the world is waking up. By morning, the school's phone rings non-stop. The secretary's voice is strained as she answers, "Yes, we've seen the post. Yes, he's a student here." Teachers gather in the lounge, murmuring over the sudden spotlight. Ms. Hawthorne sits at her computer, cursor hovering over delete, her jaw clenched. Jalen arrives at school, classmates staring, some with awe, others with envy. A group of students high-five him in the hallway. One whispers, "You did it, man." Jalen nods, heart pounding, clutching his backpack a little tighter. In the main office, the principal scrolls through the post, face unreadable. He calls a staff meeting, voice low and urgent. "We need to get ahead of this." The biology teacher, Mr. Whitfield, catches Jalen's eye through the window, offering a small, proud nod. Ms. Hawthorne passes Jalen in the hall, her smile brittle. She doesn't speak. Jalen meets her gaze, steady and unafraid. The bell rings, and the halls fill with noise. But for Jalen, everything feels different. The essay has left his hands, and now nothing can pull it back. The morning sun casts long shadows over the school's front steps. A crowd gathers, signs held high. We were realistic too. Dreams denied, dreams reclaimed. Former students, faces lined with stories, stand shoulder to shoulder. A woman's voice cracks as she speaks into a microphone, tears glistening. "She told me I'd never be a lawyer," she says. "Now I clean their offices." The crowd murmurs, a low hum of shared pain and defiance. Cameras flash, capturing the moment. Jalen stands at the edge, his NASA jacket zipped tight, eyes steady. He watches the faces, the stories, the weight of years pressing down. Inside, principal. McCall adjusts his tie, sweat beating at his temples. He glances at the window, the noise outside a reminder of the reckoning to come. His hands tremble slightly as he straightens his jacket. The doors open and the march moves inside. The hallway feels smaller, the walls closing in with every step. Jalen leads quietly, the weight of expectation heavy but borne with calm dignity. In the boardroom, voices rise and fall. Parents recount lost chances. Alumni speak of broken promises. The principal listens, his usual composure cracking. Ms. Hawthorne sits stiffly, her eyes darting, the room's energy shifting around her. A reporter's camera zooms in on Jalen's calm face, the contrast stark. The crowd's chants echo softly, a chorus of hope and justice. The meeting stretches on, but the tide has turned. The old stories are no longer whispers, but a chorus demanding change. A small package arrives at Jalen's doorstep, the label handwritten, in looping script. He opens it carefully, revealing a vintage NASA jacket folded with care. A note slips out. "Wear it to the board meeting. Anita Foster, Apollo Team." The fabric is stiff, the patches faded, but proud. Jalen runs his fingers over the mission patch, tracing the embroidered rocket. His mother watches from the kitchen, her eyes shining with pride. "You ready?" she asks gently. Jalen nods, slipping his arms into the sleeves. The jacket is a little big, but it feels right like armor, like belonging. That evening, Jalen stands before his bedroom mirror, adjusting the collar. He tucks a packet of astronaut ice cream into the inside pocket, a small reminder of every dream he's ever had. The jacket's weight grounds him, connecting him to a legacy bigger than any classroom. Downstairs, his mother snaps a picture, her voice soft. "Send her a thank you." Jalen smiles, lifting the collar one last time. "I will." He grabs his backpack, the essay tucked safely inside, and heads out the door. At school, students turn to stare as he walks the halls. Some whisper, others offer quiet nods. He keeps his head high, the jacket's insignia catching the light. In the boardroom, he hangs it on the back of his chair, the Apollo patch visible to everyone. Miss Hawthorne glances at the jacket, her expression unreadable. Dr. Foster's note sits in Jalen's pocket, a silent promise that he's not alone. The room feels different now, history and hope woven into every thread. Jalen takes his seat, ready for what comes next, the legacy of those who dared before him resting on his shoulders. Ms. Hawthorne sits at her desk, the glow of her monitor painting, her face in pale blue. She scrolls through the news article, Jalen's name bold in the headline, comments flooding in beneath. "Fire her! This is why I homeschool." Her hand trembles as she reaches for her coffee, knocking it over. The mug tips, spilling across a student's astronaut application form. She grabs napkins, blotting at the spreading stain. But the ink runs, Jalen Rivers' name dissolves into a gray blur. Her breath catches. She stares at her reflection. In the monitor, the lines around her mouth deeper than she remembers. A secretary pokes her head in. "You okay, Ms. Hawthorne?" She forces a smile, voice thin. "Just a spill. I'll handle it." The door closes quietly. Alone again, she wipes her hands on her skirt, gaze darting back to the screen. The comments keep coming. Some defend her, most don't. Her inbox chimes. The district wants a meeting. She exhales, shoulders sagging. The classroom outside buzzes with end-of-day chatter, but she can't hear it. Just the steady ping of notifications and the soft drip of coffee onto the floor. She scrolls back to the top of the article, reading Jalen's words. Each line lands heavy. She presses her palm to her forehead, trying to remember the last time she felt certain about her place here. Her hand shakes as she closes the window, the cursor hovering for a moment before she finally clicks away. The stain on the application spreads, the name now almost illegible. Ms. Hawthorne sits back, the room suddenly colder, the hum of the computer loud in her ears. The first crack has appeared, and she knows it can't be covered up. The boardroom is packed, every seat filled, the air thick with anticipation. Cameras flash as parents and students settle in, whispers darting between rows. Jalen sits beside his mother, NASA jacket draped over the back of his chair. He glances at the poster behind the principal, Equity in Action, the Y barely hanging. On. The principal raps the table with a wooden mallet. "Let's come to order." His voice wavers, betraying nerves. Miss Hawthorne sits rigid at the end of the table, lips pressed together, hands folded tight. She scans the crowd, eyes darting past familiar faces, searching for support. A board member clears his throat, shuffling a stack of notes. "We're here to discuss recent events." The phrase hangs, heavy and unfinished. Jalen's mother squeezes, his hand under the table, her grip steady, her jaw set. A reporter leans forward, pen poised, capturing every detail. A teacher in the back adjusts her glasses, eyes flicking from Jalen to Ms. Hawthorne. The tension is palpable, each person waiting for someone else to speak first. Jalen sits tall, shoulders squared, gaze unwavering. He doesn't fidget, doesn't look away. The room quiets, the only sound the faint buzz of overhead lights and the scratch of a pen against paper. Ms. Hawthorne shifts, crossing and uncrossing her legs. She glances at Jalen, then quickly looks down at her lap. The principal clears his throat again, voice softer. We'll begin with public comment. The first parent rises, voice trembling but clear. We need answers. The crowd murmurs, the energy shifting. Jalen remains still, every muscle taut, waiting for the moment to come. Outside, the wind rattles the windows. Inside, the hush deepens, the weight of what's unsaid pressing in on everyone. A mother stands, clutching a worn photograph as she faces the board. Her voice trembles but grows stronger with every word. My son wanted to be a scientist. He was told to lower his sights. He stopped dreaming. The room absorbs her pain, some heads bowing, others meeting her gaze with silent apology. Harold, the former janitor, leans against the back wall, his old work badge dangling from his pocket. He clears his throat, drawing every eye. I quit. 'Cause y'all killed hope, he says, voice rough but unwavering. Saw too many dreams swept up with the trash. He looks at Jalen, nods once, then steps back, his presence lingering like a challenge. A father in the audience squeezes his daughter's hand. A teacher shifts in her seat, eyes shining with regret. Ms. Hawthorne's pen slips from her grasp, clattering to the floor. The sound is sharp, echoing through the quiet. She bends to retrieve it, her hand shaking, face flushed. A board member scribbles notes, lips pressed thin. The principal glances at the clock, wishing the moment would pass, but the crowd is emboldened. Now, voices rising in a wave, an alumnus stands, voice cracking. I was told to be realistic, now I tell my kids to reach higher. The audience murmurs, the energy swelling. Ms. Hawthorne stares at her notepad, the words blurring. Jalen sits still, feeling the tide shift. His mother's grip tightens on his hand. The boardroom is no longer a place of quiet control. It is a stage for truth, every testimony a crack in the old foundation. The principal clears his throat, but the room belongs to the voices now. For the first time, the system listens, unable to look away. Jalen stands, his movements measured as he approaches the front of the room. He places a crisp envelope on the podium, the NASA logo gleaming under the fluorescent lights. He doesn't speak right away, just rests his hand on the letter, letting the room settle into expectation. A board member leans forward, eyes narrowing as he reads the insignia. A reporter's camera lens zooms in, the shutter clicking in rapid bursts. Jalen finally lifts his gaze, meeting Ms. Hawthorne's eyes across the table. She swallows, throat working, her fingers curling around her pen. He taps the letter once, voice steady, but quiet. This is my internship offer. NASA. The words hang in the air, simple and undeniable. The audience shifts, a ripple of surprise and pride moving through the crowd. Ms. Hawthorne's jaw clenches. She glances away, her composure slipping as the board members exchange glances. A teacher in the back nods, a small smile breaking through her worry. Jalen's mother wipes a tear, her shoulders relaxing for the first time that night. A student near the door whispers, "He did it." Another snaps a photo, sending it to friends. The principal clears his throat, but his usual authority feels thin. Jalen steps back, leaving the letter on display. He returns to his seat, head high, jacket catching the light. The room is different, now hopeful, charged, the old script discarded. Ms. Hawthorne stares at the envelope, the NASA emblem shining brighter than any grade she's ever given. The moment lingers, heavy with meaning. For a heartbeat, everyone in the room sees what's possible. Jalen folds his hands in his lap. The letter on the desk a quiet victory that needs no further explanation. Jalen stands, his movements measured as he approaches the front of the room. He places a crisp envelope on the podium, the NASA logo gleaming under the fluorescent lights. He doesn't speak right away, just rests his hand on the letter, letting the room settle into expectation. A board member leans forward, eyes narrowing as he reads the insignia. A reporter's camera lens zooms in, the shutter clicking in rapid bursts. Jalen finally lifts his gaze, meeting Miss Hawthorne's eyes across the table. She swallows, throat working, her fingers curling around her pen. He taps the letter once, voice steady but quiet. "This is my internship offer, NASA." The words hang in the air, simple and undeniable. The audience shifts, a ripple of surprise and pride moving through the crowd. Ms. Hawthorne's jaw clenches. She glances away, her composure slipping as the board members exchange glances. A teacher in the back nods, a small smile breaking through her worry. Jalen's mother wipes a tear, her shoulders relaxing for the first time that night. A student near the door whispers, "He did it." Another snaps a photo, sending it to friends. The principal clears his throat, but his usual authority feels thin. Jalen steps back, leaving the letter on display. He returns to his seat, head high, jacket catching the light. The room is different, now hopeful, charged, the old script discarded. Ms. Hawthorne stares at the envelope, the NASA emblem shining brighter than any grade she's ever given. The moment lingers, heavy with meaning. For a heartbeat, everyone in the room sees what's possible. Jalen folds his hands in his lap, the letter on the desk a quiet victory that needs no further explanation. A father rises from the second row, voice steady but edged with years of frustration. "Why do our kids stop dreaming in your classroom?" The question lands with a weight that silences even the restless students in the back. Ms. Hawthorne blinks, caught off guard, her practiced smile faltering for the first time. She fumbles with her notes, searching for the right words. "I was practical," she manages, but the excuse falls flat. A wave of murmurs rolls through the audience, some shaking their heads, others glaring in disbelief. The principal shifts in his seat, tugging at his collar, sweat beading at his temples. Jalen meets Ms. Hawthorne's gaze, his expression calm. He doesn't speak, but his presence is louder than any accusation. The crowd's attention swings between them, the air thick with anticipation. Ms. Hawthorne's fingers crease the edge of her notepad. The words, "Manage expectations now," a smudged blur. A mother in the back wipes her eyes, whispering to her neighbor, "He's not the only one." A teacher closes her gradebook, lips pressed together, regret flickering in her eyes. The lesson plan on the projector is forgotten, the focus now on the question that refuses to fade. Ms. Hawthorne tries to recover, voice strained. "We want what's best," but she's drowned out by a chorus of voices, parents and students alike. The room feels smaller, the walls closing in. The principal's authority wavers, his tie, suddenly too tight. Jalen remains still, letting the silence speak for him. The question lingers, unraveling the old order thread by thread. For the first time, the power in the room belongs not to the teacher, but to those who dared to ask why. Dr. Foster rises from the back, her movements deliberate, a hush falling as she approaches the front. She carries a small wooden plaque, the gold plate engraved with her name and the year she retired from NASA. Her voice is clear, carrying across the boardroom without effort. "I was told I'd never orbit Earth," she begins, her gaze sweeping the room. "But I did. Not because someone made it easy, but because I refused to shrink." She sets the plaque beside Jalen's letter, the two symbols side by side on the table. A board member shifts in his chair, the legs scraping softly against the key. Floor. Ms. Hawthorne stares at the plaque, her lips parted, words caught in her throat. The principal lowers his head, fingers laced tightly together. Dr. Foster pulls a faded mission patch from her pocket, embroidered with a rocket and her name, Anita Foster, 1972. She places it gently on the table, her hand lingering for a moment. "Every barrier you break for someone else, too." Jalen's mother wipes her eyes, pride shining through her tears. A student in the audience snaps a picture, the flash briefly illuminating the patch and the plaque. The crowd is silent, every face turned toward the front, the weight of Dr. Foster's legacy settling over them. Ms. Hawthorne's hands tremble in her lap. She glances at Jalen, then quickly looks away, her composure slipping further. The boardroom feels changed. The old stories replaced by new ones, spoken with certainty and hope. Dr. Foster returns to her seat, her shoulders squared. The plague and the patch remain, reminders that dreams denied in one generation can become reality in the next. Jalen stands, the microphone wobbling slightly as he adjusts it. The room is quiet, every eye on him. He glances at the NASA jacket, draped over his chair, then at the letter and patch on the table. His voice is steady, not loud, but it carries. You said realistic. NASA is real. The words are simple, but they land hard. The microphone crackles, feedback whining for a moment before fading. He doesn't flinch, just lets the silence stretch. Ms. Hawthorne's hands grip the edge of the table, knuckles paling. She looks down, unable to meet his gaze. A student in the back lifts her phone, snapping a photo that captures the moment. Jalen's calm, Ms. Hawthorne's isolation, the Equity in Action poster blurred in the background. A board member clears his throat, shifting uncomfortably. The principal scribbles something on a notepad, eyes darting between Jalen and the audience. Jalen's mother sits taller, hope flickering in her expression. Jalen looks out at the crowd, letting the truth settle. He doesn't raise his voice, or plead for understanding. He just stands there, jacket shining under the lights, the patch and letter beside him. The room feels different now, charged, expectant, the old order quietly undone. Ms. Hawthorne glances up, her eyes glassy. For a moment, she seems about to speak, but no words come. The microphone picks up only the faint hum of the air conditioner and the distant shuffle of feet. Jalen steps back, leaving the microphone standing. The photo taken in that instant will go viral before the meeting ends, a snapshot of change, quiet and undeniable, echoing far beyond the boardroom walls. The principal slides a stack of documents across the table, his hand unsteady. Ms. Hawthorne, the district is reassigning you to training effective immediately. The words are formal, but his eyes flicker with discomfort. The boardroom is silent, every phone raised recording. Ms. Hawthorne's pen hovers above the E signature line. She hesitates, the tip leaving a tiny blot of ink. Her lips pressed together, jaw clenched. She glances at Jalen, then at the crowd, searching for a friendly face. None meet her gaze. A board member shifts in his seat, crossing his arms. Another teacher in the back exhales, relief and regret mingling in her expression. Jalen's mother squeezes his hand beneath the table, her wedding band digging into his skin, a reminder of every battle fought for this moment. Ms. Hawthorne finally signs, her handwriting shaky. The L in Linda smudges as she lifts the pen. She pushes the papers back, hands trembling. The principal nods, collecting them with a sigh. A student in the audience whispers, "It's done." The words ripple through the room, a mix of satisfaction and disbelief. Ms. Hawthorne gathers her belongings, stacking them neatly, each movement precise and slow. Jalen watches, face calm, jacket still draped over his chair. He doesn't gloat, doesn't look away. The boardroom feels lighter, the tension broken. The old rules have shifted, replaced by something new. As Ms. Hawthorne stands, her shoulders slump. She walks toward the exit, the crowd parting in silence. The door closes behind her, the finality echoing in the stillness. Jalen's mother lets out a long, shaky breath. The principal turns the page, moving to the next item on the agenda, but everyone knows nothing will be the same. Jalen stands, slipping his arms into the NASA jacket, the fabric stiff but comforting. He lifts his backpack, pausing as the room's eyes follow him. Students line the hallway outside, some nodding in respect, others stepping aside, uncertain but watching. The jacket's insignia catches the overhead lights, a quiet beacon. Ms. Hawthorne gathers her belongings, moving slowly. As she approaches the door, Harold, the janitor, positions his mop bucket in her path. "Careful," he says, not moving, his gaze steady. She hesitates, then maneuvers around him, her steps quickening. The crowd's laughter is low but unmistakable, trailing after her as she disappears down the corridor. Jalen walks forward, head high. A younger student offers a shy thumbs up. Another whispers, "That's him." Jalen smiles, just a little, acknowledging them without stopping. The hallway feels different now. The old tension replaced by something lighter, more hopeful. Teachers watch from doorways, some smiling, others thoughtful. Mr. Whitfield gives a subtle nod, pride flickering in his eyes. Jalen passes Ms. Hawthorne's. Empty classroom, the door ajar, chairs stacked on desks. He glances inside, then keeps moving, not looking back. At the end of the hall, the sunlight pours through the glass doors. Jalen pauses, feeling the weight of the jacket and everything it means. He steps outside, greeted by a small group of classmates waiting for him. They fall beside him, no words needed. Inside, the laughter fades, replaced by the quiet hum of a school change. The echoes of old rules linger, but the path ahead is open, marked by courage and the promise of new beginnings. Morning sunlight spills through Jalen's bedroom window, casting golden lines across the floor. His phone vibrates nonstop on the nightstand. He picks it up, eyes widening as he scrolls. "Let Jalen Fly" is trending, his name everywhere. Photos from the boardroom, clips of his speech, the NASA jacket shining beneath the fluorescent lights. Downstairs, his mother stands at the kitchen counter, coffee untouched, her hands trembling as she reads the local news on her tablet. Dr. Foster's words replay on the TV. "Every barrier. You break for someone else." The anchor's voice is hushed, reverent. Jalen pins his internship letter to the wall above his desk, covering the faded science fair ribbon that once felt like his highest achievement. He sits for a moment, staring at the patchwork of dreams and proof, letting it sink in. The school's main office phone rings off the hook. The secretary's voice is strained, repeating, "Yes, he's our student. Yes, we're proud." Teachers gather in the lounge watching the news, some smiling, others wiping away tears. Mr. Whitfield sends Jalen a message. "You changed more than you know." Ms. Hawthorne's face flickers on the TV, small and pixelated, her expression unreadable. The district releases a statement, promising reform. Jalen's classmates send text, some congratulations, some apologies, some just heart emojis. He heads downstairs, backpack slung over one shoulder. His mother meets him at the door, eyes shining. She hugs him tight, whispering, "You did it." Jalen smiles, feeling the weight and the freedom of what's changed. Outside, the world feels new. The sun is bright, the air crisp, and everywhere. He turns. His story is no longer just his own. It's a spark lighting the way for others. Workmen move through the halls before the first bell, peeling down faded posters and unrolling new ones. "Dream big! All are welcome." The faces of black scientists and engineers beam from the walls, their stories printed beneath. Students stop between classes, some pointing, others reading in quiet awe. The building feels warmer, brighter. Jalen walks past Ms. Hawthorne's old classroom, its door propped open, desks stacked. A younger student tapes a handwritten note to the frame. "Dreams, welcome here." The custodian polishes the floor where her desk once stood, pausing to smile at Jalen as he passes. The reflection in the wax tile is clear, a launchpad for something better. Teachers gather in the hallway, discussing the new curriculum. Mr. Whitfield shows off a stack of lesson plans about Mae Jemison and Katherine Johnson. "It's about time," he says, grinning. A group of students cluster around the new posters, snapping photos for social media, their feeds now filled with possibility. Jalen runs his hand along the wall, feeling the texture of the fresh paper. He stands a little taller, pride settling in his chest. The voices in the hall are different now. Louder, more hopeful, the old caution replaced by excitement. The principal walks by, nodding to Jalen, his expression softer than before. "We're making changes," he says quietly. Jalen nods back, understanding the work isn't finished, but the direction is right. As the bell rings, students file into classrooms filled with new light. The posters catch the sun, colors vivid and alive. Jalen glances back once, the note on the door fluttering in the breeze, a promise that this time every dream will be given room to grow. Ms. Hawthorne sits alone at her desk in room 214, the afternoon sun slanting across rows of empty chairs. Her phone buzzes with notifications, each headline a fresh reminder. District pledges reform after students' NASA win. Let Jalen fly inspires change. She scrolls, reading comments. Some angry, some grateful, all final. She sets the phone down, staring at the faded "Reach for the Stars" poster on the wall. The edges curl, the colors dulled by years of sunlight. Her lesson plans are stacked in neat piles, untouched. She picks up a red pen, twirls it between her fingers, then sets it aside. There's nothing left to grade. The hallway outside is alive with voices and laughter, but here the quiet is heavy. She glances at the empty seat where Jalen used to sit, remembering the way he always wrote his dreams in the margins. The memory stings more than she expects. A notification pops up. A video of Jalen speaking at the board meeting, his voice calm and sure. Ms. Hawthorne watches, her reflection faint in the dark screen. She presses her hand to her mouth, eyes burning. Knock at the door startles her. It's the custodian, pausing with his cart. "Need anything?" he asks, voice gentle. She shakes her head, forcing a small smile. He nods and moves on, leaving her in the hush. She looks around the classroom one last time, the sunlight catching dust motes in the air. The world outside has moved forward, and she feels it, her authority replaced by a quiet, inescapable solitude. She gathers her things, closes the door behind her, and walks away, the echo of her footsteps the only sound left. Jalen kneels in the dew-soaked grass, the morning quiet broken only by a distant bird call. He runs his thumb over the smooth NASA patch in his hand, its stitching bright against the gray headstone. "Hey, Grandpa," he whispers, voice catching. "I did it. I got in." He places the patch just below his grandfather's name, pressing it gently into the earth. Memories flicker, garage afternoons spent building cardboard rockets, Grandpa Sam's laughter, the smell of paint and glue. Jalen smiles, blinking away tears. "You always said I could reach higher. I wish you could see it." He sits back on his heels, reading the inscription carved in stone. Samuel Rivers, dreamer, builder, believer. Jalen's breath fogs in the cool air. He pulls a folded essay from his pocket, the one that started it all, and lays it beside the patch. "I wrote this for you," he says softly, "for everyone who never got the chance." A gentle breeze stirs, lifting the corner of the paper. Jalen closes his eyes, letting the moment settle. He feels the weight of legacy and the lightness of hope, side by side. The world beyond the cemetery fence is waking up. But here, time slows, the silence full of meaning. He stands, brushing grass from his knees. "Thank you," he murmurs, voice stronger now. He glances once more at the patch and essay, then turns toward the rising sun. Each step away feels lighter, the promise kept, the dream finally honored. As he leaves, the NASA patch gleams in the wee-some early light, a quiet tribute on sacred ground, proof that some dreams, once planted, can never be uprooted. Tanya stands at the podium, the auditorium lights soft on her face. She grips the edges, knuckles pale, scanning the crowd of parents, teachers, and students. Her voice wavers at first, but steadies as she begins. "My son was told to lower his sights. He was told to be realistic, but he never stopped believing." A hush falls. She glances at Jalen in the front row, pride shining in her eyes. We faced closed doors, quiet dismissals, and the kind of doubt that lingers long after the words are spoken. But we also found allies, librarians who slipped him the right book, teachers who nodded encouragement, friends who stood by him when it mattered. She pauses, letting the weight of her words settle. Change doesn't happen because one person shouts. It happens when many voices refuse to be quiet. A teacher in the audience nods, wiping away a tear. A student squeezes her friend's hand. Tanya continues, voice clear. I'm here for every parent who's ever been told to wait their turn, for every child who's been told to shrink their dream. We're done waiting. We're done shrinking. Applause grows, hesitant at first, then swelling. She smiles, tears shining but unfallen. Jalen's dream was never just his. It belongs to all of us now, and we'll keep building together. She steps away from the podium, the crowd rising to their feet, applause echoing through the hall. Jalen meets her at the steps, hugging her tight. Tanya whispers, "You showed them." He nods, emotion thick in his throat. In that moment, the auditorium feels transformed, a place where every voice matters and every dream has room to grow. Ms. Hawthorne walks the corridor, papers clutched to her chest, footsteps echoing in the morning hush. She pauses at the intersection where students gather, laughter bouncing off the lockers. Jalen stands in the center, surrounded by friends and younger students, his NASA jacket bright among the crowd. She approaches, her presence drawing a brief hush. Jalen glances her way, his expression calm, unbothered. Ms. Hawthorne nods, a small, hesitant gesture, but he's already turned back to his friends, their conversation undisturbed. The students around him don't part for her as they once did. They close ranks, a subtle wall of support. A teacher passes, offering Jalen a warm smile and a quiet, "Congratulations." Another student, notebook in hand, asks Jalen about the science club. He answers, voice steady, never raising it, but everyone listens. Ms. Hawthorne lingers, uncertain, then continues down the hall, her steps quickening. The power in the hallway has shifted. Where once her presence commanded attention, now it barely registers. She hears snippets of conversation plans for the STEM club, talk of new posters, excitement for next week's assembly. Her role has faded, replaced by new voices and new leaders. Jalen's laughter rings out, easy and unforced. He stands taller, the crowd around him growing. Ms. Hawthorne rounds the corner, her reflection in the trophy case a reminder of what's changed. She clutches her papers tighter, the echo of her authority lost in the noise of a school that has finally moved on. Jalen glances after her for a moment, then turns back to his friends, the hallway alive with possibility. The old order is gone, replaced by something brighter, something earned. Custodians work early, rolling out ladders and peeling down old faded posters. In their place, they hang bright banners. Dream big, all are welcome. Hallways fill, with color photos of black scientists, engineers, and astronauts smiling from every wall. Students pause between classes reading the stories, some snapping photos, others just staring in quiet awe. Jalen walks through the corridor, his NASA jacket catching the morning light. He stops by a new poster of Mae Jemison, reading the caption, aloud to a group of younger students. "First black woman in space," he says, pride in his voice. The kids nod, eyes wide, seeing themselves in the possibilities. Teachers chat near the office, reviewing new lesson plans. Mr. Whitfield grins, holding up a stack of STEM club sign-up sheets. "We're expecting a record turnout," he says, passing a clipboard to a colleague. The energy is different, hopeful, expectant, alive. A student with a sketchbook tapes a handwritten note to the wall. "Dreams welcome here." The custodian gives Jalen a thumbs up as he buffs the floor, the reflection in the waxed tile crisp and clear. The old gray walls seem to breathe easier, the entire building transformed by the promise of new beginnings. Jalen lingers for a moment, hand resting on the cool surface of the poster. He smiles, feeling the shift not just in the decorations, but in the air itself. Around him, classmates talk about science fairs, college visits, and summer internships, their voices confident, their dreams spoken aloud. The bell rings, and students flood the halls, the banners fluttering overhead. Jalen glances back once, watching a group of friends pose beneath the new posters, their laughter echoing. The message is clear. Here, Every dream has a place. STEM classrooms buzz with new energy. Desks once half-filled now overflow with students. Black, brown, white, all eager, voices bright with questions. Jalen takes a seat in the front row, flanked by classmates who once hesitated to sign up. The teacher, Ms. Patel, beams as she hands out lab kits, her eyes meeting each student's with encouragement. A girl in a hoodie raises her hand, asking about the robotics club. A boy sketches rocket parts on the margin of his notes. The roster, projected on the screen, shows names that were never there before. Proof that the barriers have shifted. Ms. Patel pauses, letting the moment settle. "We're making history," she says, and the class nods, understanding. Jalen glances around, catching the proud smile of a friend who once doubted he belonged. The teacher moves from table to table, answering questions, her voice never hurried. Every student gets a turn, every idea welcomed. A counselor peeks in, clipboard in hand, noting the packed room. "We'll need more supplies," she says with a grin. No one is turned away. The old excuses, not enough room, maybe next year, are gone. Jalen helps a younger student adjust a microscope, their heads bent close in concentration. The room is alive with possibility. Each experiment a small act of defiance against the way things used to be. The numbers on the roster are more than statistics, they're stories, each one a step toward a future where no one is told to shrink, their dream. As class ends, students linger, reluctant to leave. Ms. Patel hands Jalen a flyer for a summer science camp. He grins, tucking it into his notebook. The classroom empties, but the change lingers, a promise that this new reality is here to stay. Jalen stands in his backyard, the night cool and clear. He sets up his telescope, hands steady as he aligns it with the stars. The world is quiet. Only the distant hum of a car passing and the soft rustle of leaves. He peers through the lens, searching for Saturn's rings, his breath fogging in the air. He thinks of his grandfather, of rockets built from scraps and hope. He remembers the essay, the boardroom, the faces in the crowd. Above him, the sky stretches wide, endless, every constellation a reminder of how far he's come and how much further he can go. Jalen adjusts the focus, stars sharpening into bright points. He whispers to himself, "Dreams aren't just for sleeping. They're for building." The words hang in the darkness, carried upward. He feels the weight of the NASA jacket on his shoulders, the fabric warm even in the chill. A light flicks on in a neighbor's window. Somewhere, a dog barks. Jalen smiles, feeling the quiet victory of this moment. He jots notes in a small journal, sketches the moon's craters, plans for the future forming in the margins. He stands back, gazing up, heart steady. The universe feels closer now, not distant or impossible. Each star is a possibility. Each night, a chance to reach further. He breathes deep, hope filling his chest, certain that his story is only beginning. As he packs up, he glances one last time at the sky, the constellations shining brighter than ever. Jalen heads inside, dreams intact, ready to build whatever comes next. The district's main office hums with new purpose. Administrators gather, reviewing fresh curriculum guides and resumes from diverse candidates. A banner in the lobby reads, "Every voice, every dream." Jalen's story plays on a loop in the waiting area, students and parents pausing to watch, some wiping away tears, others nodding with resolve. In classrooms across the city, teachers reference his journey, encouraging students to aim higher. A principal at another school announces, "We're updating our policies, no more closed doors." Counselors meet with students, asking about their ambitions, jotting notes, and promising follow-up. Local news crews interview families, capturing the energy of change. Tanya Rivers appears on television, sharing advice for parents advocating for their children. Jalen's classmates are invited to panels, their voices shaping what comes next. A new teacher introduces herself, her accent different, her smile wide. "I'm here because I saw what you did," she tells Jalen in the hallway. You made room for all of us. He grins, pride and humility mingling. At home, Jalen receives letters from students he's never met. Thank yous, questions, stories of their own dreams. He reads each one, replying when he can, understanding that his victory is just the beginning. The district calendar fills with events. STEM nights, guest speakers, parent workshops. The changes ripple outward, touching every corner of the community. The old barriers crumble, replaced by a culture where every child is seen, every dream is possible. Jalen walks the halls, greeted by new faces and old friends. The world he helped shape feels wider, brighter, alive with possibility. The awakening is real, and it's only just begun.